I'm ready.
Welcome to a new Millennium on the Kaijusaurus Podcast.
New
This
age.
is the podcast in which a lifelong fan of Godzilla and Kaiju movies watches and reviews all 30 plus films in the Godzilla canon with a good friend, and at the time of the podcast's
You're
conception,
complicating it, man. You're complicating it.
newbie.
Keep it simple, stupid.
I'm Steven Sloss,
I'm Roz. Sloss.
and we're listening. The subject of today's episode is 1999's Godzilla 2000 Millennium. But before that, do we catch...
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm alright. Yeah, how are you?
I'm good as well. So,
Excellent. That was our quickest ever personal lives recap.
yeah. So we did our live show.
We did our live
How do you
show.
think the live show went, Stephen?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a great deal. It went much better than I expected it to go because we actually got an audience.
Yeah, we had an audience. We had a lot of people for listening. And thank you for
a lot of interaction.
a
as
lot
well.
of interaction
So
as
that was
well.
fun.
And thank you for anyone that's downloaded the actual podcast episode as well and listened normally. You know, we hope. I think that's safe to say. We hope to maybe do something live again. It was fun.
I think so, definitely at some point. I think my next suggestion would be doing Shin Godzilla as a live episode because we've already discussed that film so much on this show that, like, when it comes to the actual discussion episode, maybe do something a little bit different.
Yeah, exactly. Make it a little more special.
Yeah.
But no, it was good. It was a good episode. We chatted for like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah,
and we had a lot of fun.
Solidly.
And we were all giggling in my living room, all laughing at Matthew Broderick,
And of course, the subject of that episode, the live discussion, was 1998's Hollywood-produced Godzilla. So, where Toho found themselves after that film was here with Godzilla 2000 Millennium.
Year 2000 coming up.
Which, you know...
The Millennium was coming. Everyone was thinking about what they wanted their lives to mean and where they wanted their things to go.
Or of the robot uprising.
Yeah.
Sorry, the internet uprising, or whatever Y2K
Data.
was. I don't remember Y2K.
Data.
Really.
I remember being scared of it.
I remember the turn of the century, the new millennium, but I don't remember the Y2K scare.
I remember it vaguely, but what I ultimately just remember is the Simpsons episode about it. The Halloween special
where do
about
they
it.
fly off in a rocket and Homer and Bart get left behind.
But I can't remember. I was actually, when I was young, kind of not terrified of it, but I found that episode kind of like
What if I got left behind?
Yeah, a little scary. But I can't remember that episode was actually made after the Y2K, if it was made like in anticipation of it.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah.
I can't be fucked looking.
So, like I said to you before we stuck on the film, Ross, is that it's easy to see this movie as purely a reactionary piece on Toho's part.
Yeah.
In retaliation to the Hollywood attempt.
So this was made like after that film had come out then.
The intention with the American Godzilla was to launch its own franchise.
Right.
Which didn't happen. The idea was, for it to launch its own franchise, and Toho wouldn't really make their own movies lest get in its way or compete or whatever, that sort of thing. But, the American film, Roland Emmerich's movie, turned out to be what it turned out to be. And so Toho...
Toho said, "New year, new me."
Toho...
Brushed off the haters.
After an indescribably average run of films in the early half of the decade, Toho got their shit together and produced this movie, Godzilla 2000, which I think I speak for both of us here, because you had good reactions to this movie throughout. This is a fucking good movie. This is a really fucking good movie.
Fucking great. It's really good.
And... it's easy to compare it to its immediate predecessor, the Roland Emmerich movie. So we will.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
it's just to launch into the film itself. Godzilla 2000 is almost like what the American film should have been.
Yeah,
it's such a simple plot. It's such a simple idea. It's got a very small cast of characters. It's got a Godzilla, which is fairly radically redesigned, but still recognisably Godzilla.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, before we dive into the film proper, was there an intention to do something a little different with this new Godzilla film?
I think it was, like, Hovis best of both. Make a quote-unquote traditional Godzilla movie, a classic Toho Japanese Godzilla movie, and to launch it into the new Millennium.
Yeah, and kind of reflect some of these successful blockbusters.
Yeah, sure.
In a more productive way, in a more effective way. Because this film, I mean, for the bulk of this film we will talk about, we will compare it to the fucking 1998 Godzilla. But
because it is easy to.
Because it really is. But what we'll also do is compare it to a lot of these other big American action films that were coming out at the same time. Jurassic Park, of course, it always comes back to that.
Yeah.
But when I compare these films in this episode, it's a good thing. It's a good comparison.
Absolutely.
It does feel like a modern film. It feels like they've looked at what's worked in movies, fundamental things like plot, character, and fucking conflict.
Yeah.
And
which Toho
gone with it.
Forgot how to do in the 90s, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, no, I would say so.
And it's interesting to note... Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, that's fine. I mean, we're both in agreement that ultimately, while I enjoyed a lot of them and didn't hate all of them as much as you did, a lot of those films, maybe the last sort of 4 or 5 we've done, have been very aimless.
Absolutely, yeah.
Doddering along, not hitting home.
Almost remakes of the same movie again.
Yeah, exactly. Like, never really being particularly in depth. Characters that are not hugely rememberable or important.
Not a lot of pushing boundaries going on.
Yeah.
Which this film does. Yeah. This film does try and push the series forward, leaps and bounds, but we'll get there. What you were talking about in terms of contextualizing this movie within the broader sort of world cinema of that era.
Uh-huh.
Well, to think of it this way, this movie came out in the same year as two movies that would inform and shape pop culture going into the new millennium: The Phantom Menace and The Matrix.
Right. Yeah, of course.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Very just shy of the Millennium.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Those are other, particularly Matrix, is a very like Millennium film.
Sure, yeah.
Very Y2K, very big data.
Yeah.
It's all the data, everyone.
So Godzilla 2000. Again, it's a very simple plot. It's a simple premise, but it does so much with it. If you're listening to this, you've probably seen the movie or are familiar with it, but we'll do a quick plot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Surmise, as we always do. So the film opens with the Godzilla Prediction Network. A father-daughter team who's accompanied by an intrepid journalist. Sort of a classic Godzilla trifecta of characters.
Yeah, of course.
The radical scientist and the reporter, and they're basically storm chasers.
Yeah,
but they're going after Godzilla, he's just appeared. Interesting about this film, which I'll bring up later, ambiguous continuity.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't... this actually takes place in the same universe as...
Yeah. The most that this film gives us is that Godzilla's pre-established.
Yeah, that he's known.
It's known to the world.
And his origins are known.
Yeah.
Or vaguely. Someone blames scientists in general and the sort of... the gall of scientists.
But again, a refreshing thing about this movie, it doesn't get bogged down in continuity.
No.
It just throws you in.
Yeah, we start in media res. We start with our lead scientist, Mr. Shinoda, and his daughter, Yo.
Yeah.
Father and daughter, like you said, storm chasers. That's the best way to put it. But they are just chasing around these islands. They've got their own sort of cut and dry equipment that they're out in the middle of the night, just firing up their own personal equipment, and they've got a journalist who clearly doesn't want to be there. This is clearly some B story that she's having to deal with.
Yeah, and they're not a professional, sponsored agency. They're amateurs.
Yeah, that's it. They're an amateur science team.
Yeah.
They're almost hobbyists that have taken it a bit too far.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Godzilla arrives, and it's not too big a deal.
Uh-huh.
Buildings shake, people's lives are interrupted.
Yeah.
But, like we just said, it's a known thing. We've established Godzilla's there.
Yeah.
Particularly the photojournalist kind of almost is been through things
Is
like
bored
this before.
of doing Godzilla stories.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, she's dealt with this all the time.
It just throws you into this story.
But once we met them, we fire off to the CCI. It's almost the counterpart of the opposite of these amateur storm chasers. This is the real deal. They are professionals. They have a big office building. They have access to really high-tech equipment. They're the ones that are really in charge of looking after this situation. They're the disaster managers.
Yeah. The central countermeasures... intelligence
agency. There is an A in there, but it's not part of the acronym.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we don't get too bogged down in this organisation. We only really get to know it through two main characters, which is Katagiri, this sort of stony faced leader, or I believe he's Secretary of the Interior.
Yeah, he's head of CCI.
Yeah, and I believe, so he's sort of government agent, government official, and his sort of second in command, the sort of scientist, who is Miyazaki.
Yes. And interesting is that Shinoda, Miyazaki, and Katagiri were, there's that classic backstory, friends at college. Friends at college, they were, but they split off when they were adults, and they became two opposing factions. Yeah. Ultimately go towards the same goal, but ideologically opposed.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll talk about just how much of a refreshment it is to just have a good, strong human story. And it really, really is. I mean, you do come to care about this father-daughter pair.
Yeah. You
do come to care about their relationship with the journalist as well. Yeah. They become a little team. She's invested in them. There is a joy in watching her care more and more about this story that she's now involved in. She's not just reporting in. It matters to her. And by the time we're in this big climax in the building, which we will get to. So, the main big thing that happens in this story is the science team of the CCI have been investigating underwater and have almost unsubmerged something they've found there, something ancient, something old. They've pulled it up out of the water.
A huge, big sort of heap of rock.
A rock thing, only for it to almost rise above the water, rise past their floating balloons and out of the sea. There's something there. Yeah. It's an ancient spacecraft of some description, or an ancient alien object. It's very, very vague in the best possible way. Mm-hmm. It's something out with their control. It's something they clearly shouldn't have fucked with.
Yeah.
And very, very quickly, this becomes the main focus of attention. Godzilla is almost blasted away by this alien creature, by this alien ship.
Yeah, well, the focus on Godzilla is literally blasted away by this craft.
By this alien spaceship.
It blasts Godzilla off screen, and off screen he remains for a good portion of the movie after the point.
Absolutely. Once that's dealt with, once Godzilla's squared away, once Godzilla's out of the scene, we go really into a sort of lockdown dealing with this substantial alien. There's an understanding between the CCI and the
Godzilla Protection Network.
Yeah, the network. The CCI previously having sort of squashed the network, threatened them with action, really sort of taking the reins from out under them, seeks them out for sort of guidance, help, and sharing of equipment, because there's an understanding and a recognition that Shinoda is talented.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, and it's subtle. Sometimes the GPN, the Protection Network, is sort of played for laughs. They're a rinky-dink amateur bunch, but they're right.
Yeah.
They get it right every time.
Oh, no, absolutely. When you see the first conversation between Shinoda, the journalist, and the two scientists, or Captain...
Of the CCI.
Katagiri and Miyazaki, you get a nice sense of character there.
Yeah.
There's new revelations. We learn that Shinoda was formerly a university scientist, that all three of these men know each other, work together, studied together, were all friends.
Yeah.
And various points in their life they have diverged, different ideological goals now. Ultimately, though, they are all still scientists.
Yeah.
Ultimately, though, they can respect what one another do.
Absolutely, yeah.
To a degree, Katagiri obviously doesn't, at that particular moment, respect what Shinoda does. Later on, I think he kind of comes to understand his importance.
But when this alien craft, like what you said, the importance of the GPN's research, when this alien craft makes home atop it's the CCI building, or the building which CCI has its headquarters.
Yeah.
It's slowly learned that this faceless craft. It's important to note that we don't meet an alien race.
No.
Or there's no face of this craft or anything.
No, you get one creature.
It's literally just a sleek, silvery craft.
And it's all the better for it.
Exactly, and it's much more menacing that way. We slowly learn that this thing is breaching CCI's data, hacking into CCI's databanks, downloading the internet, finding out about mankind and the Earth
and Godzilla
and particularly Godzilla is what they're interested in, because Shinoda has discovered in Godzilla his regenerative capabilities, which he names Organizer G1, or its subtitles for some reason want to call it Regenerator G1.
Even though very rarely it is, it's
what they're clearly
watch it in Japanese, but they do say Organizer.
They say Organizer
in
G1.
English.
So what we eventually find out is that while this was probably not their intention in coming to Earth 60 million years ago and laying dormant ever since, the aliens are now after Godzilla's regenerative abilities. To what?
To what end?
To create, to give form to what is formless.
Yes. They want...
That's the theory. Yeah. Is it Yuki, the journalist, I think, presents that theory.
Yes.
To give form to the formless.
Right, yeah, to almost give themselves a body to sort of... They do want to terraform the Earth. They want it to be suitable to their needs.
Well, they want to make a kingdom on Earth. Which is that really, really fucking good scene where Shinoda is in the building. It's about to be blown up in an attempt to blow up the spacecraft. He's running out, then he turns back, and all the computer screens are just displaying the word Millennium.
Yes.
And he's just like...
Yeah, and there's not a real description of what that means. You can put it together.
Yeah. And then,
a new age, a change.
Once Shinoda...
New year, new me. That's
what
the aliens are saying.
Yeah, exactly. And then all screens, TV, computers, whatever, big plasmas in big public streets start displaying strange words and meanings.
Buzzwords.
Yeah, buzzwords.
Peace, kingdom,
peace,
society.
kingdom, dominate. Yeah. And things that the aliens are learning about mankind, and they're sending us a nice PowerPoint presentation about it. So it's that shit is kind of a little bit eerie to me, that they're just throwing stuff about us back at us without context, just letting us know that they know us.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is just a much more effective use of villains. They're not outlining their plan every fucking 5 minutes. We've not got a ridiculous little HQ of aliens running around talking about their plans and what they want to do, played by human actors. Not seeing these creatures, not even hearing from them is so effective, because you just have to work out exactly what they're after, exactly what their plans are, exactly what it is they want to do for yourself.
Without communication.
Yeah, without communication.
Which is super interesting. So the aliens are after Organizer G1, the thing within Godzilla which gives him his regenerative abilities. Which ultimately leads to a showdown.
Godzilla shows up.
Yeah.
He wants revenge for being knocked off his feet. The indignity of it. And he shows up and begins to blast the alien ship with his powers.
His atomic ray.
His atomic ray.
Which for the first time is actually flame-coloured.
Yes.
Godzilla battles the alien craft, which over the course of the rest of the movie gives birth to something with form. But we'll get to that further in our discussion. So, Godzilla 2000 Millennium. Here's something surprising for you, which kind of fucks me up a little bit whenever I think about it. Because it's just... I have a hard time reconciling it in my head. This film was directed by Takao Okawara, who also directed, in the 90s, Godzilla vs. Mothra, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2.
Right.
And Godzilla vs. Destroyer.
Films, right.
Godzilla vs. Mothra.
Yeah.
I know you have you all know Ross has a little bit of a hard time remembering films.
Yes.
You remember these ones?
Yeah, I remember these ones. I remember I liked Destroyer. Alright.
Yeah, Destroyer was the one with the micro-oxygen creature.
Yeah. That was... Yeah, that was a...
Mechagodzilla 2 is the one with Rodan and the new Mechagodzilla, and it's crap.
Yeah.
And versus Mothra was the one with Mothra and Batra, and...
Yeah, but again, these were films that we all
these
felt were aimless.
These were production line movies.
Yeah, absolutely. Like producer-led, like studio-led, kind of shapeless, aimless, formless, boring, inoffensively offensive walks in the park, basically.
Sure.
Evidently a bit more creative control here.
Oh yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Maybe Okawara
was
afforded a bit more creative license in this movie. Like you said, it definitely seems that way. Whether that's the case or Toho took a look at the American movie, took a look at their own output from the first half of the decade, and realised they have to step up to the plate and not to put across too dramatic a point, save the franchise.
Yes.
Because things were looking bleak.
Oh yeah.
So, with this movie, Godzilla 2000, Okawara really shows a really adept directorial hand.
Oh yeah.
This is a well-directed movie.
I mean, honestly, just from the very start of the film, there's just a sense that there's actually an intention to the filmmaking. There's some of the nicest and most beautiful filmmaking in this film that I haven't really seen since like maybe Jun Fukuda.
Sure, that's fair. Yeah,
a real some real beautiful sequences. I would say one is the underwater sequence, but I will start with the beginning of the film.
Oh,
such a strong opening.
Opening sequence is just
so good. Gets right to it. The first shot is literally Yo setting up equipment.
Yeah.
The shot of some spinning top thing, whatever. It's an ominous smoky night. We get really soft shots of showing us people waiting in a train station. People dining at small restaurants. It's quite regional. It's not the middle of Tokyo. It's somewhere
it's a fairly urban environment.
Yes, urban countryside, somewhere further out.
Yeah, it's like I've forgotten the word. Go on.
Yeah, the journalist is there right away. We don't even see her getting the assignment. She's with them already, and she's bored. She's
suburb. There we go.
There we go. That's it. You know, and it's interesting because to compare this introduction of our main scientist character,
I know what you're going to say, and I thought the exact same,
to the introduction of Nick Tremidor. It's an ominous night. It's smoky, it's foggy.
Yeah.
We know something's going to happen. Compare that to Nick Trambobolo zooming about, listening to rock and roll music in broad daylight in Chernobyl.
In Chernobyl, yeah, exactly. And
scraping up worms.
And what's funny is that, theoretically, they're not all that different scenes.
No, that's it. They're not.
They introduce scientific characters doing what they do in a non-scientific setting, etc., etc. Just emphasises what I said earlier, is that this movie is what the 98 movie should have been.
Yeah. It's just a stronger film. There's a sense that there's an intention behind it. That
sure.
There are actual scenes that are there to reveal characters to us.
Yeah.
We learn what they want and what they're after. We learn about their relationships. Those relationships change and grow and are dynamic. The characters have ideological points they start with that change. They make mistakes.
Yeah.
They're there for a reason beyond looking at Godzilla as he destroys stuff.
Absolutely.
If Godzilla weren't there and he's not for a majority of the film, we're still engaged with these characters.
Yeah.
There's a sequence later on in the film where our main character runs into a building that's going to get destroyed so he can get information. And honestly, I was worried that the building was going to get destroyed.
Yeah, there we go.
And it, based on what we know is making the call to destroy it, I knew that he was going to blow that building up. I was worried because I knew he's not going to what's his name? Fucking the captain, Katagiri. I knew that Katagiri was going to blow that building up. It was just a matter of what would happen. So a moment like that becomes earned. It doesn't become cheap. Oh, don't worry, he got out, it's fine. It becomes earned. A rescue, an escape. Yeah, exactly. When you care about the character.
Compare Shinoda, Yuki, and Io going into the crisis control tower where the UFO is docked. Mm-hmm. Compare that to Matthew Broderick, Jean Reno, etc. going into Madison Square Garden.
Oh, yeah.
There's no comparison.
Yeah, no, and then making it out relatively simply.
And this is what Godzilla films have always been so adept at, is, making the most of what is, comparatively a minuscule budget.
Uh-huh.
Because I guess I would say this film would maybe have approximately 1/15th, 1/20th of the budget of the TriStar movie. And
uses it well, lads.
Look what it does with it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, even...
There's basically 5 characters. There's 5 characters, essentially.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Sure, there's other characters with dialogue here and there, etc., but there's no one
5
else.
5 central focus characters.
Yeah, there's 5 characters. That's it. It's a relatively small scale movie for what is a big scale story. It's that little personal touch that sets it aside from the shallowness of the '98 movie.
Yeah.
And this movie does so much right. And it's strange because when I first saw this film when I was 9, I think, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was boring and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I can see that. I can totally. But things you think are boring when you're a kid are
exactly,
different.
and
but it should be.
The older I get, excuse me.
This is the Plague Cast.
The older I get, and the more and more I watch this film, with each successive viewing, I enjoy this film more and more, and I appreciate it more and more. And that's the case with this viewing I've just had with you. This is such a good film.
Yeah.
And I think, even though I'm saying, it's easy to read it as a reaction piece to the '98 movie, it's also so much more than that. It's just a good movie.
And it's nice to see that Godzilla's trying to shake it up for the new Millennium. It seems like Toho is actually trying to do something a little different. Well, it doesn't have to be in direct competition with the American counterpart.
Yeah.
I'm sure ultimately they were disappointed to see that it wasn't a success.
Well, exactly, yeah.
So it's not like,
it's not as if Toho are going to be gleeful at the failure of a multi-million-dollar movie featuring
of their guy.
Of their brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
boot up their arse.
Yeah, Toho got their shit together.
Yeah.
And, talking about bringing Godzilla as a franchise and a character into a new millennium, something this film does, which, this element had been introduced experimentally in Heisei movies in the early 90s, but here it's at the forefront, and it's a lot. CGI.
Yes.
And a lot of new stuff done with special effects.
Absolutely, which is really exciting.
Because the special effects director of the Heisei movies, Koichi Kawakita, is not on these movies anymore.
Right, okay.
So there's a lot of experimentation with things in this movie, like green screen and composites, like putting not just statically putting Godzilla in the background of a real life shot location, and it just being a static kind of ho-hum. This is like dynamic, fluid camera, tracking Godzilla as he walks through a real location. That shot where he comes ashore on the beach, and it starts as a sort of relative framing close-up of Godzilla, but it pulls back and back and back, but he's still walking towards the camera on a real location, and then it pulls back further than Godzilla, it pulls back onto jet planes. And it's just so good. And then when the jet planes attack him, we follow the CGI missiles
under the bridge
as they hit Godzilla. Then the planes go, 5 of them, I think, 4 or 5, go towards Godzilla, and then suddenly whoosh, up.
Yes,
just before they hit
really, that amazing, really cool formation.
Yeah.
Well, even the spaceship, this big silver floating metallic object, right off the bat. What's Terminator 2 like 1990?
Terminator 2 was 92?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a real use of that metallic, that liquid metal kind of effect as well to give you something very similar to that. Not in a rip-off way, just in a liquid metal is cool. It is the 90s.
Exactly. And
liquid metal is the defining element of the 90s.
It would be easy to say, not all the CGI is great, and it's not. But the good thing about it is that they're trying.
Yeah.
They're trying new things. Finally,
they're using it to a point.
Exactly. Finally, in the special effects department, Toho are trying new things after the stagnation of the Heisei movies, where there was no real progression in the effects.
Look, if it's a good movie, you get a pass. It's as simple as that.
There was no pioneering of the special effects. Everything sort of stayed at the same level.
Uh-huh.
A competent level, sure, but nothing amazing or groundbreaking or like you're going to drop your draw at. Anything like that.
Yeah. But for a franchise, it's ultimately is a special effects franchise.
Yes, because special effects.
Its character is a special effect.
Exactly. Yeah.
You need to be doing something new.
And my second addendum to that would be, like I said earlier, consider the film's budget compared to American movies of the same era. And when you consider that, the stuff looks pretty fucking good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's used effectively. It's not gratuitous. We get the first fully CG Japanese Godzilla in that underwater sequence. As he just swims towards the camera and swims past it. Mm-hmm. It looks great.
Yeah.
The first iteration of the alien creature is a CGI monster. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's over and done with quickly. There are limitations in this movie, and you remember that in terms of Japanese cinema, there was no great precedence for CGI.
No,
there was no example to follow. Really, all these filmmakers are really find their own feet and being self-taught in this.
Yeah, whereas US 80s movies did kind of have burgeoning digital effects.
Yeah, it was a very slow progression, like Young Sherlock Holmes and The Abyss and Terminator 2, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. Whereas with this, Toho introduces a lot of digital effects, but used sparingly and, I would argue, very well.
Yeah, just woven in perfectly.
Like some of the stuff with Godzilla trampling through real-life locations, it's so good and it's seamless.
Oh, yeah.
It's really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to just what we've been talking about this movie looking good, about it being well shot, being well filmed. I mean, like I said, the opening is impeccably filmed, really ominous, sets a great tone, and that sequence lasts for a good 5-10 minutes.
Absolutely, and that sequence and through the rest of the movie, in terms of special effects, again, we got a lot of on the flip side of Godzilla being composited into real life locations, we get a lot of actors being composited into miniatures.
Yes.
Which is really, really fun. Like at the end when Katagiri is facing down Godzilla on top of the building. We have Katagiri CG'd in front of a miniature set where Godzilla tears the front part of the building down. And at the start when the GPN is tracking Godzilla around, we get a lot of, God damn, what's his name? Shinoda,
yeah.
Yeah, Shinoda. And Io and Yuki in their car looking out at a miniature set.
Yes.
But we see the interior of the car and the miniature set through the windshield.
Yes.
Which is really, really cool.
It's really nice. So so many just really powerful shots.
Yeah.
Very early on, the first time Godzilla comes ashore, he's walking down the sort of central boulevard, and the lights of the buildings, the cars, they all go out in front of him, and at the end he's backlit by sort of orange light, by fire, and it's really, really beautiful. Another little sequence right off the bat of that is when the CCI and their underwater submergibles are investigating the metallic spacecraft underwater.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful sequence.
It's like a forest of chimneys. All these strange formations and stuff leaking out gas.
And
bubbles.
We're underwater. You just see bubbles and darkness, and it's really nice music, and it's just done really, really well. You feel deep underwater. You're exploring, and you see what's his name, the scientist, the sort of second in command, Miyazaki, through this little peephole.
Yeah.
Sort of nebbish scientist type, difficult finding his words, quite awkward. And the only thing he can say is, like what you said, it's like a forest of chimneys, which is sort of a funny phrase, but it kind of, even then, actually tells you a little bit about this character.
Yeah.
He's quite awkward.
He's not exactly got away with words.
Yeah, he's not profound, but you get a sense that he is overwhelmed by what he's seeing.
Exactly.
That he is in tune to the nature of things.
As
a scientist, he's not, hell-bent on his mission, hell-bent on his job, because ultimately he becomes an ally to the team.
Exactly, yeah. Well, in that scene, like you said, that little bit of awkward dialogue lets us know that he still has a sense of wonder in his work. And so, which lets us know that his heart
is in the right place.
In his work, and it lies with Shinoda and the GPN and their approach to this thing.
Yeah. Well, to tangent off of this chat about imagery and the visuals of the film, and to kind of go back a little bit into the character, particularly we'll start with the science team, the GPN. That's so fun.
They're great. Yeah.
When the journalist shows up at the clubhouse. And you get such nice little scenes between the father, between the daughter. The sets are really well designed. You can tell they live and work here. You can tell the relationship. They need each other. There's no reference to the fact that
there's no mother in the picture.
There's a partner missing there, and that's well done.
Yeah,
there's a question there. But there's an answer in just how much, particularly at the end when Shinoda survives their embrace between father and daughter, how much they need each other.
That scene does get me welling up a little bit.
It got me as well, which is rare for some of these films to actually just genuinely get involved, to really feel with the characters. And it's well done.
You're right. There is the lack of Io's other parent, but it's not addressed because there's no need for it to be.
Yes.
It's just part of...
It's part of the fabric of the film. Yeah. If not being addressed doesn't mean it's not absent, if you understand what I mean.
And there's no... Yeah, exactly. And there's no lame line from Katagiri like, oh, you could track Godzilla, but you couldn't keep track of your marriage.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like something like that.
And there's not an attempt to shoehorn in the journalist as a replacement wife or mother.
And it's,
sure, maybe down the road they like these characters, they like each other.
What they become is a very, very cute little trio because, when Yuki and Io are driving away from the building which is rigged to blow, which Shinoda is still in, and, they kind of solemnly accepting that, it's going to happen. The worst is going to happen. Whereas what Yuki just suddenly seems to go, no, fuck this, and just drives the car right round and takes Io and herself straight back to the building.
Back into the danger zone.
Back into the danger, yeah, to try and save Shinoda, who, whether you want to interpret it romantically or not, she now very much cares about, as she does Io.
Yes.
Which is, it's a really, really nice, subtle characterization. Yeah. And it's really cute. And if you want to, interpret Shinoda and Yuki's development as romantic,
go for it.
Yeah,
because go for it.
It's there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
If you want to take it that way, it's there.
But it's nice that it doesn't end on fucking making out.
Yeah, because that's not what these films are concerned with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But to go into the GPN,
But just quickly, sorry. I do think it adds a little bit to Shinoda's character to imagine him as a widower.
Yes, absolutely.
That's how I see the character.
That's how I do too.
There's not a wife who left him because he was too obsessed with his work.
Yeah, that's a nice
or
thing.
any of that nonsense. No, I do believe he was a widower, and his deceased partner was absolutely as into this shit.
Oh, certainly as he was welcome and embraced it.
Even on that, no, there's no lame thing. I researched Godzilla because he killed my wife.
Yeah, Brian.
There's none of that. Shit, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's none of that. And there's no implication that, Io isn't actually really into this.
Yeah,
her father's
neglected.
making her do it.
You get the sense that this is important for both of them. You get the sense that this is a really special thing that they can share.
It's a genuine
together,
shared father-daughter interest in hobby.
together and look after each other with. I mean, you know, Yo makes the food. Yo wears the apron, that sort of thing. There's this clear reliance on each other.
Yeah.
She's obviously has an expectation of her that's more than her years, and to a degree is capable of fulfilling that. But the GPN thing is lots of fun.
Yeah, they're just a nice bunch.
Yeah, they're a nice bunch, and it's nice to see them, you know, when information is given to them, you jump to different people. Someone else at a computer in Fukunaga and someone else in Tokyo.
Yeah. This is truly a network.
Yeah, exactly. And a thing, I'll run it by you, a thing that I sort of wrote down that I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, it felt very much like, you know, your sort of year 2000 era Godzilla fan network.
Yeah, there we go.
Like, basically Godzilla enthusiasts getting together and sharing information over new technology like the internet.
Yeah. Sharing information about Godzilla.
Yeah, quite right. Yeah. Like that was the thing that sort of came to me. The other thing I thought was funny is that their van that they load up has stickers from Canon, the camera makers, on it, and I like to think that they got one sponsor, and Canon threw them like some money.
What I was going to talk about in relation to like that sort of stuff, you know, technology and internet and data, etc., is that how much this film plays into what we were talking about earlier, the Y2K scare.
Yes,
like the hemorrhaging and
loss of information,
loss of information and data and technology and like technology used against us and things like that. How much this film sort of, whether intentionally or not, you know, the film is called 2000 Millennium.
Plays into fears about technology and information and misuse of information that are relevant even to this day.
Indeed. You're so right.
Read your terms and conditions, everyone.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, fucking hell. So yeah, I think this. I've not none much to really talk about further on that point, but I think this film really subtly and gracefully plays into the Y2K scare.
Oh yeah, no, it uses it well. It's a good use of that theme, of that relevant information. Going back into the GPN and to something I said earlier about the really good contrast between Shinara, Yo, what's her name? Yuki, the journalist, and the CCI, particularly Captain Kagiri, and Miyazaki. I mean, when we see, should we just talk about Kagiri? We just talk about how that is one of the best characters in Godzilla.
Yeah, he's one of the best characters in the entire franchise. He's so good.
What's that actor? Can you tell me anything about that actor? Do you know? Do you got his name?
I actually can't. No, I've seen him in a few other things. But clearly criminally underused.
Oh, absolutely. I take it he's not coming back.
Not in the Godzilla franchise, no, if I'm remembering correctly. What a character.
You know what makes it more special? Makes it more special. Yeah. What a character.
And what a performance.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, you know, he's such a dick.
Yeah, I mean, he's our antagonist.
Or he's antagonistic.
Yes, and he's the villain in that he's trying to stop the main characters, but he's not villainous.
Yeah, he's not like, you know, siding with the aliens.
Yeah, he's not a bad guy. He's just a lot more forceful in what he wants to do. Has a different ideology in how to deal with Godzilla. He's someone that thinks that Godzilla should be destroyed, should be killed. Yeah.
Which is, you know, the old Godzilla series debate, destroy or study.
His development is throughout the whole film. I mean, he undergoes a change as well. We talk about the main characters and their relationship changing. The villain, the antagonist, his relationship also changes. Well, both antagonists. We'll start with the sidekick, Miyazaki. I'm a big fan of when the sort of nebbish, more reasonable second-in-command character actually turns out to help the heroes and aid them. I'm always a fan of that, so that's always nice. So he has his sort of change of heart and realises that information... He
maybe chose the wrong side.
Yeah, he first of all organises the talk between both groups.
Absolutely.
Where information is going to be shared and organises that, but ultimately he brings them back into the fold and wants them to help and clearly regrets his involvement. But anyway, going back to...
But more importantly, he passes the order that Shinoda be allowed entry into tower.
The tower, yes.
To gain this information to use, not to use against the aliens, but to find out what they want.
And he's happy.
What they're using. Yeah.
He wants his help. He wants to help them back. Okay. So we have Katagiri, and he's stoic. He's forceful. He has a clear ideology. He puts it in action. He's at conflict with the main characters, and that conflict drives this entire film.
Yeah.
Using that building as an example, I want Shinada to get into the building, get the information, and get out. But I know for a fact that Katagiri is going to blow up that building. I was never in doubt.
Yeah.
He has an unchanging sense of what's right, what's the thing to do. So when you put those two things together, there's tension.
Again, it's an age-old quandary, isn't it?
So there's a nice back and forth conflict and a personal relationship between him and the main characters. A scene that I think really tells you all about him, and it's a really great inversion of the kind of shots that I love from the original Godzilla, of everyone around the table. It's the first big military scene where Katagiri is talking with his military advisors in the big tent.
Yeah.
He's the only one sitting down.
Yeah.
All the other military advisors are stressed out, standing, pointing, all leaning over the table. Katagiri is sat back in his chair.
Arms folded,
knowing exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Cool, calm, collected. The only person here that knows their shit and really can make a decision and stick to it. A great little bit of just
subtle characterization,
really. And that's the nice thing about this movie, is that there's little bits of characterization all over the place. You learn about the characters as the movie goes on.
The film takes its time to characterize its characters without at the expense of the film's runtime or the film's story. Like what we're talking about with so much of the earlier Heisei movies.
Some earlier than that.
Yeah. The Heisei series is done.
Yeah, that's
By
it.
the way, this is a new series of Godzilla movies.
A breath
called
of fresh air.
The Millennium
New
series.
Year, New Us.
And I'll put that in the description for this episode.
Please do.
In my opinion, at least, IMO, we're out of the woods.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I'll get to this in a second. I want to finish off what I was going to say about Katagiri.
Go ahead.
And taking him to the end of the film. So Godzilla has saved the day.
Yeah.
His plan to blow up the alien ship by destroying the building failed.
Uh-huh.
And he almost has to suffer the indignity of Shinada returning alive.
Yeah.
He gave the order to blow him up, blow up his former best friend, his sort of academic rival.
Yeah.
And knowing he was in the building, they both know that the other one knew they were there. And he had to do that. And watching the actor, the sort of sheer scorn and contempt and of his plans, losing control of them is really, really good. But it all comes down to Godzilla has saved the day. The aliens are destroyed. The alien creature is destroyed as well. And he's face to face with Godzilla, this creature he wanted to destroy.
Yeah.
And that saved the day.
Yeah.
If he had destroyed that, they would all be lost to this alien race.
Yeah.
And there's a conflict there, and he's such an unchanging character, he almost can't admit it because he wants to die. He was so
wrong. His entire beliefs and what he thought was right. What he genuinely thought was right thing to do.
He doesn't do anything out of malice. He does it because he genuinely, earnestly, and fair enoughly thinks he's right. Which he kind of is.
He was just so wrong.
Yeah.
In this instance. And like you said, this makes him feel like he's ready to die.
Yeah, well that's it. I mean, you get the same thing with like Javert and Les Mis and all that. Javert's it.
Katagiri is a much more
Godzilla!
No, Kaiju 24601!
No, Shinada!
Shinada just goes, I stole Godzilla cells!
Oh, it's so good.
You will starve again, lol!
But yeah, so he can think of nothing else to do but to give himself up to Godzilla. He's been bested.
Should we edit in the Javert bone crunch noise over Katagiri's death? You know when Russell Crowe dies in Les Mis spoilers?
Yeah.
When Javert commits suicide and just have that awful bone crunching side effect when he slams it in the water, and it's like, oh Jesus, we get it.
Oh yeah, that could be a lot of fun. Redub it. That's the only change you make. Just fire that out into your torrents.
But so yeah, Katagiri is now facing what is now, I guess, his nemesis, and he's ready to give in.
That's it, and so he lets Godzilla just tear the rest of the building down.
Whether it's, suicide or maybe not so much a suicide or as a willingness or readiness to die.
That's it.
He does.
Yeah, that's it, and Godzilla tears the building out from under him and he falls.
And Shinoda tries to save him.
Yeah, absolutely, which is great. He's a good guy.
Exactly, yeah.
And is upset and genuinely tried to help him. Genuinely tries to tear him up out of there.
Throughout the movie, we got a lot of mileage saying the Ross was Shinoda and I was Katagiri.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was us years after
the podcast broke up.
The podcast broke up, and we started separate podcasts.
Steven's sleek and professional. Mine's at the back of a fashion van.
Who does Katagiri look like?
Right. So earlier on, when we were watching the film, Katagiri, the actor that plays him, reminds me of someone, and it just made me hate him a lot more. But I didn't want to tell Steven so that I could tell you here. Right, he looks like Martin Shkreli, like the pharma bro, that guy that's in the news recently. That price jacked all that medicine. He looks exactly like him. He's got the weird jaw. He's got the really bug eyes. He's got the weird hair and this sort of stoic longness of him.
Yeah.
And just every time I look at him, that's what I see.
Well,
and everyone look at Martin Shkreli. You'll see him.
Good. I'm glad he's dead then.
I'm glad Martin Shkreli's in jail. Genuinely.
Yeah.
He got tried and he deserves it.
Who gives a shit? I don't care if that piece of shit lives or dies.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
I want to go back to another point I wrote down, which is just about the general climax of everyone on a rooftop watching as Godzilla fights someone else.
Well, yes, this is what I was going to say. For as great as this movie is, ultimately the human cast is, I don't want to say reduced, because the rest of the movie does do so much with them, but
they step aside and
it does become human cast on a rooftop watching the monster battle with no involvement.
Yeah.
Which
I'm fine with ultimately. This happens in so many films of the Godzilla series. I mean, ultimately there comes a time where you just need to let the monsters fight, and sure, you can be running around them. To be fair though, these characters spent a lot of time without Godzilla running around and doing their own stuff.
Yeah.
So there comes a time where the characters need to sit back and watch Godzilla fight. But for this, it's earned.
It worked.
They've been on a journey. By the time these characters are all standing in the rooftop, they've all been in their separate directions. They've all changed.
Yeah.
They've all reached a point in their relationships, their conflicts, their own personal developments that's brought them to this rooftop.
And in terms of the context of the story and the fiction of that world, there's nothing for them to do.
Yeah, exactly.
All they can do
just sit and watch.
All they can do is watch and hope Godzilla beats this thing. So this alien spacecraft has gotten a hold of some organizer G1 by sending out tentacles at Godzilla and stealing his DNA.
Yeah.
And from this is birthed a sort of saucer-like creature on top of tall tentacles.
Yeah, and very ethereal and very new agey alien.
All CG. Very Terminator 2.
And
it screams, then collapses.
Yes. So that's almost like the perfect, pure, regenerated version of the alien, but it's corrupted because you can't hack it.
Yeah. So then it becomes a creature, a huge hunched back,
like a corrupted,
huge clawed hands, long, like elongated neck. Not named in the movie, but the creature is called Orga.
Organizer.
For Organizer G1.
But it's called the Regenerator G1. So it's Regener.
It's called Regen.
Regen.
So Godzilla battles this creature, Orga. And this creature, now, its intent is now to become Godzilla.
Yes.
To surpass, to paraphrase Shin, to surpass Godzilla as a perfect organism. Because Godzilla is the most powerful organism on Earth.
Oh, he's a perfect boy.
So it needs to surpass Godzilla. Mm-hmm. If the aliens, who are now defeated, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
Even if there was aliens.
The ship is destroyed.
If it was a consciousness or whatever it was. Whatever these creatures were. They're gone. And all that's left is Orga.
They're weird, corrupted, earthy body. They got their form, they got their physical form that they wanted.
Their Godzillian form.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think of Orga?
Yeah, it's cool. It's a good fight. I don't have too much to say about it. I actually have more to say about the earlier part of that sequence where Godzilla is facing off against the ship itself.
That's interesting, isn't it?
And that is really interesting. It was actually nice to see Godzilla in a fight sequence that's not just grappling with a monster that's the same size as him.
He's basically fighting
for tat.
An object.
He's fighting an object that's stronger, powerful, vaster, a completely different, to use a boxing term, weight class. I don't watch boxing. But I did watch that big fight.
That's probably the first and only sports analogy you'll get on this show.
I bet £10 British on the fight,
Ross,
and I did not win.
This film is truly a slam dunk.
It surely is. It is an bogey.
An own goal.
No, that's a bad thing, isn't it?
I don't know.
It's golf.
All I know is bogey in the nose contact.
Sorry. But yeah, so that was actually interesting, especially when the tentacles come out and Godzilla's fighting something that's just a lot different to what he's fought before. The monster itself was cool, tit for tat, trying to bat him. Yeah, it looked really cool. It was a good fight.
Unhinges its jaw.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, I mean the way Godzilla defeats him.
Yeah. So Orga, more like Vorga.
We're big Vor fans here. Kaijusaurus HQ. Yeah, no, the way Godzilla defeats Orga there is really, really cool. Uses his powers against him. Orga detaches his jaw, trying to almost consume Godzilla, become Godzilla, take Godzilla. Godzilla sticks his head right in there, because he's a lad and a legend, and he doesn't fear anything.
And he gets stuck in.
He gets stuck in there.
Stuck in about it.
And he, what's it called? Power Blast. What's the power? I don't always forget what his power is called. I always want to call it Ice Blast.
It's
laser.
Atomic Breath.
Atomic Breath.
Yeah.
The Atomic Breath gets all glowy and explodes the creature.
Yeah.
The day is saved. Our characters look on, and this is the best part of this film to me. The film ended on such an amazing note to me that it just made me like the movie so much more, and I actually think made it one of my favourites in the end.
Oh, good.
Godzilla keeps destroying the city.
Yeah, because
normally Godzilla walks away.
Yeah.
And everyone waves goodbye to him, and it's beautiful. No, Godzilla keeps destroying the city. The situation is still
it's far from over,
out of control.
Because the Millenniums are defeated. Mm-hmm. Godzilla remains.
Yeah, Godzilla remains, and ultimately the film makes a point of saying, we caused Godzilla, this is our problem.
Yeah.
It's never going away.
Exactly, yeah. And it's great, Shinoda's last line, it's much criticised and maligned, but I like it, it says, Godzilla exists within each one of us. Like, the old classic, we're as much a monster as Godzilla.
Yeah.
I like it.
No, I like it a lot. I actually thought it was great.
While, this is a movie where Godzilla battles another monster, defeats a greater evil. It's a truly neutral Godzilla.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like, I get how you could I take it people kind of complain, are critical of that, because they're like, no, Godzilla's our good guy, Godzilla's...
Well, I'll get to it.
Okay. Yeah. But, I mean, I'll let you get to it, then I'll say what I thought about it. So what I
was going to say leads into a bigger point.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, for me, I like it because, look, yeah, sure, Godzilla's sound in some movies, and he's fun and friendly. But he does kill a lot of people every time
framed as the
coming about.
Maybe not like the lesser of two evils, because I don't believe Godzilla in any incarnation
is malicious.
maybe except one, is truly evil.
No, but it is a force that can't be controlled.
Yeah.
It is a force that leads to cataclysmic loss of human life, of town, of homes, of property, of... Not that people's property is as important as life, but, you know, of fucking people's lives and...
Exactly.
Fucking...
And as Godzilla continues to trash the city after defeating Orga and the Millenniums, what may have been in the 60s and 70s, you know, the characters, you know, on a rooftop or hillside going, "Goodbye, Godzilla!
We love you!
Thank you!
Come back soon!"
Like, they're all reflecting sorrowfully, saying, you know, this creature, Godzilla, we created it, and we haven't learned a thing from it. Godzilla exists inside each one of us, and it's over slow motion footage of Godzilla destroying, like, aimlessly destroying
Tokyo.
Using
his atomic breath as well.
Using his atomic breath.
Spraying over buildings.
That's how the film ends.
And they made a point, I mean, they did not show us the rest of the city evacuating. They showed us one building being evacuated specifically.
Yeah.
Because it was specifically this one building in danger.
Exactly. At that point. Exactly.
So there were a lot of people in those buildings.
So, this is a fucking good movie.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like I always say, like, I feel like I'm seeing these films through fresh eyes again, like when I'm watching them with you.
Yeah.
And God, just watching this off the back of Mechagodzilla 2 and Space Godzilla and Destroyer, those specifically, not so much the 98 one. Those previous Toho movies specifically, it's just, oh God, it's like getting your batteries changed.
I know,
Do you know what I mean?
It's just
such
shave.
It's such a reinvigoration of the franchise.
Oh no, it really is. I'm feeling a lot more.
Toho, sorry.
No, carry on.
Toho didn't stop making kaiju movies in Godzilla's absence in those years. So 95 was versus Destroyer, 1999 was 2000.
Right.
In 1996, 1997, and 1998, they made a Mothra trilogy called Rebirth of Mothra, and they were sort of, you know, aimed at a younger audience, you know, a kid audience, and they have a lot more in common with, you know, the Heisei Godzilla movies than they do with this movie. But you know, they're pretty good, they're fun. So Toho didn't stop making kaiju movies, and what we have now is this. In a way, you know, well, I spoke a lot about in the live broadcast how Roland Emmerich's movie didn't have any short or long-term negative effects on the franchise.
No.
This is the proof.
Yeah, they just carried on trucking along. Came out stronger.
Gave it a fucking adrenaline shot.
Yeah.
Made it step up.
The ass.
Made it step up and realise that, you know, big money or yearly movies is not going to save it.
No. Story, character,
good
and
movies save it. Yeah.
Innovation will save your film.
Exactly. Before Shin Godzilla, this was the last Japanese-produced Godzilla movie to receive a US theatrical release.
All right.
It's also the last Japanese Godzilla movie to date to be heavily reworked.
Right. Oh.
Grown, but the US version is great.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah,
What kind of major differences are there?
There's no, you know, new filmed sequences with American actors or anything, nothing like that. Like what was done with the original movie and The Return of Godzilla. Both of those had Raymond Burr edited in. This movie was edited a lot to sort of, you know, scenes rearranged here and there. They trimmed maybe about 15 minutes off in total, just to, you know, tighten it up, make it more palatable for you know, decadent Westerners. Lightened the tone a little bit.
Okay.
Added a good chunk of Ifukube music.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a really stellar dubbing job, by the way.
Okay, that's good.
The dubbing is really, really good because it's not the dub track for the US produced dub track is not like so many English language Toho dubs that, you know, were just shipped off to a Hong Kong studio who just, you know, would just
get anyone
just churn them out. This dub edits the movie to better fit the English language.
Right. Oh yeah. Okay, that's good to hear.
And it's a really, really good dub. It's fun. It lightens the tone a little bit. Maybe, you know, makes the film align more with Western expectations of what a Godzilla movie should be. You know, light, fun. quote unquote cheesy, but it's really good, and it's
that's good to hear.
It's really, really worth a watch. It's a fun ultimate version. So yeah, it's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, that was a really good film. Like genuinely, thoroughly enjoyed it. I could honestly see that being one of my favorites.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah. What a good discussion, Stephen. I feel this was a really
good discussion.
Like we were quite serious.
This is a meaty
no
episode,
jokes, but it's very meaty, very thick. It's like a good steak pie with loads of bits. Of very good.
Excuse me. So, delving further into Godzilla's Millennium series, which would lead up to and conclude with Godzilla's 50th anniversary. The modus operandi with this series of movies, allegedly, producer Shogo Tomoyuki Tanaka is dead by this point. He produced every Godzilla movie from the original to Versus Destroyer, so he passed away by the time this film came out. Shogo Tomiyama, the new producer in charge, his idea was, each movie in this series would be a reboot.
Okay.
A blank slate. And bring in directors and let them do their own thing.
Oh, worked for this one.
Yeah. And so the movies to go forward are all independent of each other.
That's honestly, I'm really cool with that.
Except for 2 movies that are like sort of direct with each other.
Okay.
They're all separate, blank slates, doing their own
director led.
Yeah, better and for worse.
Yeah. Oh no, totally.
So this is what we're heading into.
I look forward to playing with these next couple films.
And next up, we have 2000's Godzilla versus Megaguirus.
Ooh, lovely.
Yes. So that is up next on the Kaijusaurus Podcast, which is what you've been listening to.
We are those boys, those K-boys.
You will find us on SoundCloud, is where the podcast is hosted. Our main social media hub now is the Facebook page, so give us a like there, chat to us there. We're always chatting away there.
We've got our email address as well, and something that I think we've tooled and retooled this. I think what we're going to start doing is have a little mailbag, and if you want to send us little thoughts about the movie, we won't read it all, but we'll read the best of what you've said, and questions about us, about what we thought, things you want to ask us about the series in general. We're happy to take questions as well. So Stephen, the email address is
kaijusaurus@hotmail.co.uk,
and we'll try and get some of those read in the next episode.
We sure will. Until next time, in which we'll be discussing Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. Have fun.
You take care now. You have a nice time. Normally I think we would stay and chat, but I'm quite happy to wrap up
this
here.
This is good, yeah. We've kept it solely Godzilla focused.
Yeah, I mean...
For the first time in maybe about a year.
Alright. Let's take a wee second.
No, let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Before we
talk for another 10 or 15 minutes. Don't worry guys, we'll be chatting shit for 40 minutes at the start of the next episode, I'm certain.
Goodbye.
Bye!